Good day, brothers and sisters. Today is the day where I get to claim my spotlight on this internet show on YouTube and Rumble. And actually, we're live on Kick right now, so you can actually interact with us if you log into Kick. How is this not the best way to hear the news from the official Russian butt himself, Russian Collusion?
Well, big guy, not only on the mainstream media did you hear it all the time, but then when I would be talking to people on the street about what was going on with the democracy in America, for example, that's all I heard. Oh, but what about the Russian collusion? Oh, Glenn, that's horrible what he did. And I said, well, are you sure that's what really did? I mean, how do you know that? They focus on it and then it persists in the person's mind and they don't know the difference. So they're being indoctrinated into the mind belief.
And this is how they do it. Look.
Potentially collusion.
Trump, Russia, possible collusion.
Trump, Russian, possible collusion.
Trump, Russian collusion.
Trump, Russian collusion. Trump, Russia, possible collusion. Russian hacked our election.
Here comes a big change. Because all of a sudden, Trump, Russian possible collusion.
Hey,
Russian
but go ahead, Dan.
Trump, Russian, possible collusion.
Trump, Russian, possible collusion.
Trump, the Russians.
Collusion.
Collusion with the Russians. Trump, Russia, possible collusion. Trump, Russia, possible collusion. Prove collusion. Prove collusion.
Was there collusion?
Absolutely.
Trump, Russia, possible collusion. 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 Trump, Russia, potential collusion. Trump, Russia, potential collusion.
And the Kremlin and be in collusion with Putin.
What's her pronouns?
Instead of they, them, I would call that a thingamajig.
And the Kremlin are very worried in collusion. This president in collusion with Putin.
That's a wig she's wearing. I'm 100% positive it's a wig she's wearing. So underneath that wig, that's an alien. We're talking about, what's her name, representative from San Francisco? Is she from San Francisco? She's from California, no?
17 different United States intelligence agencies.
That was reach, right? 17 agencies. I always asked, brothers and sisters, I had a radio show back then, actually, when the Russian collusion, and I had people, we covered it on my radio show on Radio Hamsafar, and we had people calling in back then, and we're like, oh, did you hear about this? Please comment, you being Russian. I was like, well, I've been Canadian for the past 30 years. Well, yeah, but you're Russian and you have the show, and I'm like, well, okay, let's comment on that. He's like, what do you think about Putin and the 17 agencies now, testifying or whatever they say and having evidence on the Russian. I was like, which one? Like, what is the evidence? Give me the evidence. And they just kept regurgitating, well, 17 agencies have this evidence. It's like, well, which agencies and which is the evidence? What is the evidence? And nobody could actually repeat. They just could repeat the thing they heard on TV. Then isn't it like always the case? Just Paris?
Yeah, it's easier just to remember 17. I'd like to correct myself on the last podcast we did when we were talking about dinosaurs being on the planet for about 6 million years. I wasn't sure, so I went to search it for myself. Brother, 165 million years is the new number.
I don't know, dude. I can't. They can't do. Well, it's another carbon thing, right? Carbon dating, carbon. They're so proficient in carbon tax, carbon credits, and all this other stuff. So the carbon dating is part of that scheme. I don't know how else fits in, but remember how we played this whole thing with the Democrats and how they're like, oh, Trump was provoking violence and he was killing democratic values and By the way, what did Musk said about Hunter Biden's story, specifically his laptop?
Yeah, that was democracy interference. That is exactly what he said. All this was going on. Trump called it the greatest witch hunt in American history. And now it's proven to be true. All this Russian collusion, the whole concoction of it was being funded by the Clinton Foundation. Barry Obama had a hand in it too, of course, along with other people like Georgi Schwartz, or AKA also known as George Soros.
So the PP tape was Hillary's team's idea. Well, what else did we find out from Durham? Well, We found out the FBI shut down 2 investigations into the Clintons. 2. First, 3 separate FBI field offices said, wait a second, the Clinton Foundation is a foreign money laundering scam. We should probably look into it. But Andy McCabe, you remember Andy, the guy married to the Clinton donor? He calls everybody in and says, guys, the Clinton Foundation's off limits. Second thing they shut down, the Hillary Clinton campaign was taking illegal contributions from overseas. FBI informants caught Hillary's campaign saying, yeah, we'll take your money. We don't care. Albania, Morocco, just send us the checks. So he runs it up the flagpole at the FBI headquarters, and they said, shut it down. No investigation into Hillary Clinton's foreign campaign donors. We're not going to go there. We have to frame Trump as a traitor instead. So John Durham also found a few other funny little nuggets that squeaky clean James Comey couldn't wait to spy on the Trump campaign. He kept asking his underlings, have we started spying yet? Have we started spying yet? When could we start spying on Trump? Are the phones tapped yet?
Glenn, is it? Well, that's straight up election interference, isn't it? Just like the laptop story and all that.
Yeah, that was done forthright to take away the power from Trump, just defame him and make him look horrible.
The Department of Justice. What they never tell you is this is the Obama administration preventing investigations into Hillary.
No way.
And greenlighting fake and illegal investigations into Donald Trump. But Barack Obama gets out there and he lies to us about the whole thing.
I can guarantee that not because I give Attorney General Lynch a directive. That is institutionally how we have always operated. I do not talk to the Attorney General about pending investigations. I do not talk to FBI directors about pending investigations. We have a
funny story about that, Glenn.
This man can lie with the best of them, right?
Here's a funny story.
He lies like a rug.
So I'm going to church, ladies and gentlemen, right? Brothers and sisters, I do go to church on Sundays. And one of my church brothers, we had a funny discussions about Obama. He's like, well, you know, Obama is the first, like, oh, he's from Nigeria. He's like, oh, what if I move to Nigeria, become a president? Can I do that? Like, if I become a citizen, can I run for president? Like, of course you can. I was like, I don't have to be a natural citizen like United States? Or he's like, no, you don't have to be a natural citizen. I'm like, oh, that's great. He's like, well, he's like, you know, like Obama became our first black president of United States, and he's not naturalized citizen. He's like, and my black brother from Nigeria, he's like, yeah, he's from Kenya. I kid you not. He knew that. He's not even from the Western democratic country. And you guys just keep sleeping on this. Let's keep watching this.
line and always have maintained it. I guarantee that there is no political influence in any investigation
of course not.
Conducted
Never.
by the Justice
Zero.
Department or the FBI.
Zero.
Not just in this case, but in any case.
And that's what Durham discovered, isn't it, Glenn?
Yeah, he did a real good job of showing everybody. But the mainstream media seems to be downplaying, while the real media is just telling it like it is. Good job, Mr. Durham.
CNN's trying to catch up now. Look what CNN is doing.
Regardless, the report is now here. It has dropped, and it might not have produced everything of what some Republicans hoped for. It is, regardless, devastating to the FBI, and to a degree, it does exonerate Donald Trump.
Singing a different song. But just not so long ago, Glenn, they were singing this song. Mueller, proves them wrong.
The evidence is pretty clear that there was collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians.
Richard Blumenthal.
I think there's plenty of evidence of collusion.
Adam Schiff.
Conspiracy.
Shifty Schiff.
We saw strong evidence of collusion.
Well, we know there was collusion
Jerry
with
Nadler.
people in the campaign.
I think a mountain of evidence.
Tom Paris,
collusion
DNC
between
chairman.
The campaign and the Russians.
You know, that was the Democrat side that was promoting this, but there was also quite a few on the Republican side. This is why we talked about, the left wing or the right wing. They're the wings to the same bad bird that was running America. That seems to be diminishing. At the same time as all the Russian collusion BS was coming out, you had Hillary Clinton on her private server deleting 33,000 emails. Oh, that was no problem. We'll sweep that under.
But even newspapers, remember Washington Post? They got the Pulitzer for that. They got a Pulitzer, and they're going to stand by. Are they going to return their Pulitzer now?
Well, but maybe they're just going to go bankrupt. So many people realize that they've been had. You know, they just won't like that anymore. So they're going to lose a lot of their viewership, their readership, a lot of the advertising money coming in that funds them is going to dry up.
But they definitely won't return this. That's what you always refer to, the narcissistic and sociopathic society, right? We live in. And when often asked question, how do we turn into this? But we turn into this like this. Even when you caught right-handed in your own lie, and you like, okay, you point to the light, this is red, and somebody's telling you, no, this is green. Look, we can all see this is green. And you continue to deny it and say, continue to be a sociopath and say it's red. This is when other people maybe it's just so hard to alter the reality. It's the same way when Trump was first elected, right? Remember all those reactions when people reacted to his election? They couldn't perceive the actual things that were going on in the moment. So they really went into shock and sort of like create this illusion that things like Russian collusion and all that stuff, but the actual things like the Biden family's corruption and Barack Obama's dealings with Hillary Clinton and, sending orders down the ladder to spy on Trump's campaign and all that stuff, that was off the table. So everything we see here is CIA driven, right? Speaking of CIA, Glenn, you had something to say about that.
Yeah, also the Democrats were funding the Steele dossier that was all made up about this person in England who had all the information on the Donald Trump collaborating with Russia. That was all fake too. So, when I was trying to tell people about that several years ago before the scamdemic, people would look at me with like deer eyes in the headlights and say, well, come on, Glenn, you got to believe in something. And I would look at him and I say, really? You have that much belief in the mainstream media? You don't question any narratives at all? And so that left them, probably now they're licking their wounds, but hey, this is another thing that's going to help the people of the world. It'll start in America and spread to the world to wake up with the reality that their perception of reality, the Matrix has been controlling the way they think and what they think about for a long time. Even here in Canada, CBC that's all they were doing was talking about the Russian collusion. I mean, so it had most Canadians against Trump also. Even today I talk to people about Trump and they can't stand him that he's going to be running again in 2024, but they say Biden's going to be worse, so probably Trump's going to win, so they're thinking that they're in for hell. I said, well, how do you say that? I mean, it's been 2.5 years that Biden's been running the show, and we have potential wars everywhere. The economy is starting to contract like there's no tomorrow. People are going to be going into a hell, and they still want to. They think that's better than realizing the truth that Trump was for the patriots. He was for the people.
Speaking of Biden, I mean, how does Elon Musk fit onto this whole? People like Elon Musk are influencers. The influencers on a different scale, on a different level. Him now getting a Tucker show going and it's all per freedom. But now we find out that he's hiring this Ukraina character she's some kind of executive in World Economic Forum, and she's not necessarily for freedom of speech and expression. We need to filter. Actually, let's listen to her. Let's listen to her for 1 second.
I think the more complicated issue when it comes to fake news is that the younger generation really doesn't experience or consume news with the same filters that what I would call traditional news or older folks.
She means legacy.
Some of us up on this panel were once raised, whether you had a news reporter, a news presenter.
There's nothing traditional about this. It's a perception of traditional news, but there's nothing traditional because it's more of a opinion-driven news and steering and brainwashing and propaganda and press releases by industrial military complexes and bankers and other or institutions.
She's just enforcing what we talk about quite often on the show, champ. If you don't watch the news, you're uninformed. And let's face it, now, really, when you do watch the news, you're really misinformed.
I think she agrees with you on that.
That you trusted and that you received your news from, those largely don't exist anymore. So as a company like NBC Universal that has one of the largest news footprints in the world, and certainly the largest news footprint in the U.S., you have to constantly be looking at your news organization and your filters for disseminating and really taking that responsibility of leadership very seriously. But how do you educate a younger generation?
How do you educate younger generation? In other words, Glenn?
Indoctrinate the younger generation. Also, if you notice, just before you were watching, the lad that was sitting in the middle of Dua as she was talking, he looked quite fidgety. He looked a little bit nervous what she was talking about. The hands were going, and you could just see him there. He doesn't look too comfortable.
About news literacy. I do a lot of talks about to younger folks, be careful what you share. Where are you
Is news literacy, that's a new speak for fact checkers? Or fact checkers is the new speak for the news literacy?
getting it from, right? So I think that, there's a big spectrum to fake news. It's what are you disseminating? What are you sending out? What's catching on with consumers? Because you'll receive a video and you're there today sitting, is this real or not? What organization did this get published from? But the younger generation does not differentiate. Look, keep it. They're used to seeing,
That's an interesting point. I'm glad you pointed out, Eucarino. How dare you actually? you blown the cover for the rest of them. You actually saying, yeah, and right now nobody trusts the legacy news, which you call traditional. Yes, the moment I see CBC, NBC, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, I don't even care which one of them. I know right away it comes from the legacy, and the legacy is supported by who? It's usually sponsored by pharmaceutical companies, military industrial companies, BlackRocks, Rockefellers, Rothschilds, whatever. It's especially the source that, if it's a legacy source, it's especially not the source you want to get your news from.
Funded by the globalists to control the narrative or the groupthink of millions, hundreds of millions of people.
And that's why they were able to get away with this Russian collusion, Russia, Putin, Russian collusion, whatever they were singing along. And that's why they will get away with the pandemic, carrots, cupcakes, whatever they were doing. And you were able to regurgitate that fear. No, they regurgitated the fear and you swallowed it. And you swallowed it.
Very good, big guy.
Let's finish.
Speaking of fear, I bet you right now the Hunter Biden and the family, they must be in a perpetual state of fear, knowing that the new powers that be have all that information on that laptop. This is going to be another big awakening for a lot of people.
It's been out forever, though. It's been out for that. That's my biggest thing. How come nothing has happened yet? Even with this report that came out, and we know those parties that are at fault. You think anything going to happen to them? I don't know. I don't really have much faith in this anymore.
I told you everything is organized and orchestrated for a reason. As the economy starts getting rough, as people start getting stressed out because their way of life is completely diminishing, then these things are going to start coming out. And that's going to wake up people as to the reasons now why they are where they are, because the so-called leaders or let's say the FBI, which was is an institution used to protect people's democracy, was being used for the opposite, to create the exact opposite and the bad case scenario now that we're into, and the rest of the world is going into also.
I agree. Let's finish this short video.
Someone's, phone cam on site somewhere telling them what's going on, and they take that as real in news. So
what do you mean? That's not real news? Somebody's on site with the phone giving you factual information, and that's as real as it gets and as factual as it gets. Your eyes can see it, you can hear it. Somebody may comment on that, but you make your own decision based on the factual information presented to you in the moment, not somebody's opinion in the news desk with a paper they're reading off the prompter, etc.
Real news and education and discipline is very, very important. Not to mention in the spectrum is, all the social and technology platforms experiencing a coming of age and their responsibility
AI, discernment.
about disseminating or being a platform for disseminating news.
Yeah.
I think the more...
She doesn't like the discernment, but she never used the word discernment. She's used the word disseminating.
Well, that's why we're using the word discernment.
And that's, ladies and gentlemen, that's Eucarino. They, them, Eucarino. And she is the new...
going to be the new CEO of Twitter for Mr. Musk.
Well, maybe she won't be. Hopefully she won't be.
Another 5 weeks, I believe. Also, she was talking about, using the camera on a cell phone. Let's face it, 99% of the time, the camera on the cell phone is used for a selfie.
Or for CIA spying on you.
There you go.
That's 100% of the time. And the microphone as well, and the geolocator. Even when you think you turned it off, it's actually still on. Do you know what... I don't know. Does that make, Glenn, Elon Musk Antichrist? Like, on one hand, he's like, oh my God, look at this. I just bought Twitter. I liberated the freedom. Now we free speech again. And now you got Tucker Carlson on my show. And you guys going to, it's not going to be censored. It's going to be the best thing. And then he hires that lady.
Well, I would think Mr. Musk was the Antichrist, especially when he come out and he said he voted for Biden.
That's right.
But now he regrets his vote, big guy.
Okay, I don't know how long this video is. Let's maybe watch this for a minute.
We're coming up on an election. I mean, it's a ways away, but it's going to all start. President Trump is allowed back on the platform. He hasn't actually come back.
Right.
But one would imagine if and when he does, or there are others who will say 2020 election.
Elon Musk, is he AI?
Is that something, I assume that's not something you believe?
Well, I think the answer is nuanced. Do I believe Biden won? Yes, I believe he won.
And you voted for him.
I did, actually.
Do you regret that?
I mean, man.
Boy, winners hate to say they lost.
I wish we could have just a normal human being as president. That's what I want. I think if we could...
Okay, as smart and as genius as he is, he didn't know that ahead of time when he was voting. What was the reason why he voted for him then?
And also up there it says that he thought Kathy Wood was optimistic. She was actually spot on. I don't know. Kathy Wood there in ARK Investments, not too good, champ.
Tell me more about that. Who's Kathy
Wood? She's the boss, the leader of a big fund that had a lot of press, and there were a lot of people were putting money in because
that's right. She
was scoring really good.
That's right. I remember her. Yep.
And then she's made quite a few bad investments, and now people are losing a lot of money. And all of a sudden, ARK Investments, Kathy Wood, the names just are disappearing.
Wasn't there a criminal case against her?
Not that I know of.
Not that you know of.
Not yet, anyways.
Not yet. Okay, let's listen. Let's listen a little bit more.
You know, there's that old saying of like, we're better off being run by people picked at random from the phone book than the faculty of Harvard.
Yeah.
I don't know who said that, but it was someone very wise. And I would say if we could do that for the president, that would be great.
You think that would be beneficial? So you're not, obviously you're not happy with Biden.
Don't we all just want a normal human being to be
whatever
the president?
That means, whatever, I'm not even sure anymore what normal means.
No, but I mean, like, just, I don't know, just
You want somebody who's
Say
competent.
it.
Yeah,
That's helpful.
Yes, I think definitely somebody's executive ability is underrated. Since the president is effectively the chief executive officer of the country, it actually matters if they're a good executive officer.
Yeah.
It's not simply a matter of do they share your beliefs, and but are they good at getting things done? There's
Well, in other words, he's saying that Biden is not competent enough for mental or physical or other reasons, or political corruption or compromised, the family corrupt practices and policies. I don't know.
You notice also how he ditched Harvard University. Let's face it, today's post-secondary educations, they're really like, I'm going to say it is, they're the arseholes of the public sector because they seem to be crapping out a lot of people who are very indoctrinated, you see. And this has been going on for a while. So that's the woke, the extreme left, the neoliberalism that seems to have taken over in America, but I think that's also embellished. The silent majority is nearing its end point, and they're all going to start uniting, and they'll have the freedom to do it. And this extreme left-leaning woke movement will stop in its tracks. Okay, it's going to stop a lot faster than it started.
Speaking of Biden and his Howard speech, we played it in a previous episode in the Roundtable number 32, that speech where he said the greatest, threat to America is still the white supremacy. And then at the end of the speech, he said, I only said those things not because I'm surrounded by blacks. Right away. I mean, we obviously played a whole bunch of different videos about Biden being racist in general, and then his previous dealings and political schemes and all that stuff. It's a very funny episode, by the way, and a very pure one, because there's a lot of video evidence of Biden being actually super racist. You can watch it. That's the Roundtable number 32. Maybe 2 days ago we did this. That's a really good one. I highly recommend. And by the way, click subscribe and click likes and all these other buttons, because this show is really good and you're enjoying it and you're listening to it and you can't wait till the next episode. Glenn, what else is in the news?
I don't know. I'm waiting for your next slide, big guy.
Well, they also tried talking about impeaching Mayorkas.
Well, Mayorkas has been the Homeland Security now.
He's just a fall guy. This is non-story to me.
Yeah, it's 2.5 years, and the porous border, they're saying that they had to deport because of his policies at the border, about 5 million people, with 1.5 million unaccounted for. Just that alone.
Well, right now, in the last few days since the Title 42 ran out, something like 5,000 people came through the border, right? Daily, on each day. And they're saying even 1,000 of immigrants, specifically refugee status immigrants, coming through the border is overwhelming for the system. This is 5 times as much the threshold of overwhelming. But it's not, he's just there to be a puppet, not even to enforce the policies, but he's the guy who goes on the news and he does talk about the greatest threat to America is not the open invasion from the southern border.
Oh. No, it's white supremacist
It's the white supremacist thinking. And there's a video that I'm going to see if I can pull it up, Glenn. It's on the Telegram, because, we like Telegram. It's not censored as much as the other shows. And there's a video of Chinese immigrants coming through the southern border. And they coming through all clean, done up nails and haircuts and all this other stuff. And obviously those right here. Hold on. Those don't look like Mexicans.
They look like people to me, just regular people. I don't divide them up by their, what they look like.
The point is of this. It's not just this border opened up not only to the people coming from Central America or Southern America. Everybody's coming for this border. I mentioned it before in the previous stories that Mexico is now used as the portal, and it's not legal because it's considered human trafficking still, even in Mexico. But let's say a lot of people from Eastern Europe, like Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, come in, let's say, to Cancun on vacation visa or on vacation ticket. They buy a place for 2 weeks and then they have to show the return ticket. Then they pay somebody, either expat from back home, or maybe American or Canadian, or Mexican cartel if they don't get lucky enough. And they pay them money to bring them to the border in Tijuana or Texas or Arizona or anywhere so they can cross the border. And it's a huge business. This is considered to be highly illegal almost in all jurisdictions, including Mexico. It's considered to be human trafficking, but it's extremely profitable, especially for cartel. So of course they make more money on that probably than on drugs, because it's a nonstop flow. Think about it, 5,000 people trying to get to the border. How many of them actually use the services? Probably at least 90% of them. That's a lot of money.
And you know something, champ? All this was going on while Title 42 was still in force. Title 42 was just protections and restrictions because of the pandemic. Okay? So now this is many, many times worse. And this Mayorkas guy, he's the head of the Department of Homeland Security, DHS. All these little names, they shortened up names. CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, is the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Then you had the NSA, the National Security Agency. By the way, we all have heard the term Illuminati, right?
Yes.
Well, now you spell the word Illuminati backward. You Google it.
Do you put it like a .com into the address?
Well, you could
Let's try
just put Illuminati or put .com at the opposite of Illuminati spelled backwards, and put .com at the end of it, and it's going to bring you right to the NSA website.
No, I don't believe
direct,
it.
right
I don't believe
to
it. Okay, we're going to do this right now. I'm going to do this way. So I'm going to put...
That was a conspiracy theory that now is just being proven. We're doing it live right now for you.
Okay, spell it for me.
I
have it. ITA.
AN.
IUMULLI.com. Oh, look.
Enter.
Oh, man. You just saw that live. I just did this in front of you, brothers and sisters. Wishful thinking. Well, we'll see. Brothers and sisters, if we disappear for 2 weeks, you know where to find us. It's on Rumble. I guarantee you it's on Rumble. But hopefully we won't disappear with this one. So let's go. It's been a fun show. What else we want to talk about is, the whole thing, perception. If you listen to Ukraino and all those other sources, all those videos that were played, why did people repeat and regurgitate? Because they read the Washington Post, and then, and the Washington Post got a Pulitzer Prize for the Russian collusion, and then all this other legacy media sources that kept regurgitating Russian collusion, Trump, Putin, Russian collusion, right? Whatever they kept saying it, and it just gets ingrained into your brain, because your brain is already highly compartmentalized because of all this other trauma that you received from early childhood trauma, right? And they know how to use it. You watch MK Ultra show with Attorney Alan Stein, who sued Canadian government, McGill, Ellenan Institute, Dr. Cameron, and CIA, and he won. So we have this sort of irrefutable proof of government and all those other institutions secretly testing drugs and psychedelics and other influences on people without their knowledge. And what the point is of those studies was actually to create people to do things on subconscious level, things like Manchurian Candidate, where they can push the button and you go kill somebody or go vote for somebody, as a result of this kind of brainwashing and programming.
Like MK Ultra, right?
Exactly. That's what we're referring to. It's originally started as a Project Bluebird and grew into MK Ultra, and then who knows what the actual name for those projects are now. But the idea is, it's not just what you see on the news sources and everywhere on the internet, but also Hollywood. Glenn, you want me to play this video? Yeah, I'll play this video. Hold on.
When we're watching the media, you have to remember something very, very important. They can control your focus. So you're relinquishing your responsibility to yourself on the planet. You're giving your own power away. You're disempowering yourself. You should choose what you focus on, because what you focus on, you're going to create more of it. So I'd like to tell the people right now, focus on freedom, but live for peace and prosperity. I guarantee you, if we all did a little bit more of that, we'd all get along a lot better and make the planet a much better place.
That's a good point. Let's focus on what we can do. What did Kennedy say? It's not what your country can for you. It's what you can do for your country. Right.
And that's when the Democratic Party was in good shape. Okay, that was a man that I would vote for, not the Democrats of today.
And he came from the rum runners. This is speaking of continuing to be brainwashed.
In 2016, the Russian government attacked our democracy. They interfered in the presidential election in sweeping and
Here we go to Hollywood. Here we go.
Spread lies on social media.
For those who are listening, this is a bunch of Lawrence Fishburne, Stephen King.
Doesn't look well, this lad.
To help Donald
Sophia Bush.
In May 2017,
Jonathan Van
the
Ness, don't know who
Department of
that bloke
Justice
is.
appointed former FBI Director Robert Mueller as a special counsel
to investigate connections
Rob Reiner.
between Russia and the Trump.
The first guy was Robert De Niro.
Delivered his report
George
on
Takei.
March 22nd,
Definitely listen to him.
Contains the most damning evidence ever compiled against a sitting
He's
US
definitely
president.
Yet, virtually
Rosie
no
Perez.
one has read it.
And before the report was even released,
Back to
Trump's Attorney
Martin
General
Sheen.
William Barr lied about its contents.
He told the American people that the
Rosie
president
Perez
had done
again.
nothing
She looks old,
wrong.
man.
And Trump
All these
was more than
people are going to look bad now, eh, brother?
Total exoneration.
They always look bad, but that's the point.
Vindication. No.
Witch hunts and promoted by people who are well known, the so-called like the leaders, where people like to follow. The problem in the world is we have too many corrupt leaders and we have way too many followers. Start by learning how to lead yourself to create a better tomorrow.
Let's.
And no obstruction and no nothing.
That is an outright lie. Mueller found plenty of evidence of collusion.
The Trump
No, he
campaign
didn't.
knew about Russia's illegal attack on our election. They welcomed it.
Oh,
and
Bobby De
encouraged
Niro.
their help.
Sorry.
That's collusion.
And recently, Donald
Who's
Trump
that blog?
seated in the Oval Office acknowledged that collusion.
In fact, he admitted that
Rob
in
Reiner.
the future election, he would break the law and do it all over again.
I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening. I think I'd want to hear it.
You want that kind of interference in our elections?
It's not an interference. They have information. I think I'd take it.
But we knew that. Here are some other specific examples.
All right, it's enough. This video goes for another 5 minutes. But that's the point. A lot of people take. I have nothing against actors, producers, directors, and writers. They're very talented people on the screen, but their job is to pretend and create illusion, and a very real one for you. And this is exactly part of what's happening. Everything you see around you is an illusion if you trust the sources. And if you listen to they, them, Eucarino, and she tells you no, you can't trust your own eyes. You cannot trust the guy with the cell phone camera because, well, he's not part of the institution that you meant receive your information from, like CBC, which is 69% government funded, which is publicly funded with your taxpayer money, but the government now can feed the information that only they want you to hear. And by the way, like bills like C11 and organizations like YouTube can still censor. I'll be surprised if this show doesn't get censored. I hope not. I hope not. But it happens all the time, and it's up to you, and it's up to your discernment. And how do you discern? Is by listening to show like ours, then getting information from other sources, and being open-minded that everything you see is not what it is. Because if you can't 100% to buy something that somebody else is telling you, you better have 100% trust and faith into that person. And unfortunately, you can't.
You know something, big guy? You can trace all the problems that's going on in Western culture to one root cause, okay? It's the eradication of the creator or God from the mindset of structure, okay? This is the reason why today you have like gay marriage, prostitution all over the place, drug, alcohol abuse, transgender, all this stuff that's going on. It's because that's paganism. It's liberal gone amok. And this is what happens when you take a belief in a higher being than yourself, than humanity, out of the equation. Not only are you taking the creator and God out of the equation, you're replacing that with big government and all its fake, phony, and false agencies that are said to be protecting us and our democracies and our rights and freedoms. And now we're seeing it's been the exact opposite, and it's an extreme harm on society. Time to get back to good.
You forgot to mention academia. Academia is part of that equation too. Unfortunately, they're not, even just because the academics, they still have to follow strict guidelines of the editors and the chairs and the institutional guidelines, because that's where they get their salaries from and the grants and everything else. So they still have to follow something. There's very little independent academic that left out there that actually represent interest of you and science in general. Glenn, this has been a great show. I feel like I feel very proud of being a Russian bot today. We're going to close with Rachel Maddow. Remember Rachel Maddow? That's the blog that used to be on. I don't know, is she still on TV? I have an insert from her. It's not the best quality, but I have a video of her from a single show talking about Russian collusion. And then you're like, well, who actually watches those shows? The ratings are so little on those shows, but yet, imagine they brainwashed at least 100,000 people, and those 100,000 people went home and brainwashed, or they did it at home, and they brainwashed their little kids, or their brothers and sisters, or their spouses, etc. So, those numbers multiply. Thank you for tuning in, brothers and sisters.
Russia, Vladimir Putin, Russia, hates Russia, Putin, Russia, Moscow, Russia, pro-Russian, the Russians, Moscow, Russia, Putin, Russia against us, Russians, Russia against the U.S., the Russians, Russian government scheme, the Russians, Vladimir Putin, Russia, Putin and Russia.